even the next collaboration that he'll announce at 1 o'clock just before I give a talk. Stay tuned for my talk at 1 o'clock. So as soon as it's done, we have a surprise. Stay on and enjoy the fun, fantastic Mark Dodsworth. Over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Puleng, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody that's tuned into this amazing virtual experience where we get to look at where we're at. We get to connect with ourselves, and hopefully we can get to connect with our futures. So Puleng and the team are crazy, and that's why we've managed this all together in the last 48 hours. So a massive thank you to everybody that's enabled this. I feel humbled and honored to join you. And this is going to be my first attempt at an interactive webinar. So I'm going to invite your permission to get you potentially out of your comfortable Zoom seat and onto your feet at some point throughout the session. I'm also going to invite you to feel free and not constrained, because guess what? Even if you're singing or dancing, unless you've got your children or your spouse or partner in the room, nobody's watching. So let's feel free in this space, and let me kick off by introducing the theme for my session. So the theme is enhancing human performance towards a flourishing future. And that actually is a vision statement that I kind of created quite a few years ago in my work. And it's kind of helped me keep on course with why I do what I do. And when we look at that statement and we unpack it a little bit, I realized that it's about human performance in life. It's about human performance on stage. As Puleng mentioned, I use the arts as a tool to engage, but it's also about an enhanced human performance, obviously in business. And what a crazy time for us to revisit what really is possible for us. So I feel like I've already learned so much from the fantastic speakers today, and I'm ready to kind of kick off. What I thought I'd do is give a little bit of background around who I am and why I do what I do. So I'm a South African with a funny voice, proudly born in Boksburg, but actually grew up in the UK for 20 years, studied fine art, and found out that I was good at making things with my hands. And then I realized I liked making noise and music. And then I realized that music and sound and rhythm is a tool for engagement, a very, very powerful tool for engagement. So for the last 25 years, I've been using these tools in all types of work from all different sectors. And in fact, the first 4 years of my work in applied creativity and music was actually in youth development and working with special needs, so-called special needs youth and so-called mainstream youth. In the UK, we created a project that created a safe space for different people to come together and express themselves creatively. And I think that's what we're doing right now, right? I'm here wanting to ensure that you feel safe to be in this virtual session. And that's a different kind of approach now that we have to adopt. So I want to explore that a little bit in the session today as well. Came back to South Africa in 2000, brought my company RedZebra here, left my founding partner there. And for the last 20 years, we've been using these tools and techniques in all manner of corporate and business development. I was really blessed to be invited to run a youth program at the grandfather of all creativity conferences back in '98. And that's where I met a lot of the founding members and the giants whose shoulders I'm blessed to stand upon that have furthered the work of Osborne and Parnes. So I'm glad to see that Puleng's also been gifted with the Applied Imagination book, that Bible of creativity written by by Alex Osborne. So basically, I do a lot of work about managing state. And I'm asking you a question right now. What state are you in? Perhaps you've just joined the session, or perhaps you've been here since 8 o'clock, as many of us have. So I wanted to offer us a little moment, especially looking at the fact that we live in a COVID world, around how breath can be an incredible tool for health and rejuvenation. In fact, I recently came across the Wim Hof method. You might have heard about him. He's the Iceman. And he combines the ability to deal with extreme cold, with the ability to use your breath and master the use of your breath, and the ability to be determined and follow through. These are the 3 pillars of Wim Hof's work. And, excuse the beeps. And basically, I wanted to focus on a short activity to help us manage a key state for the rest of the session. So allow me to now see if I can quickly share my screen. It's a 3-minute breathing activity. It actually goes on for another 2 rounds, but today we'll just practice 1 round. It's 3 minutes long, and you need to make sure that you're sat somewhere comfortably. Of course, if you're taking this Zoom call in your bedroom, you might even want to have a lie down, but do make sure that you get back up at the end. So let's try it out. Here, I'm gonna go here, here. Tell me, are we on a full screen? I don't think so.
Yes, yes, looks good.
But we want full screen just on this one.
Your whole desktop.
Thank you.
Welcome. This is a guided breathing session.
You can just enlarge.
Lie down, sit down, whatever it takes. Relax. Are you ready? Here we go. Round number 1. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Go with the flow of the breath. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. Into the belly, into the chest, and let go. Like a wave. Make it circular. Fully in, and letting go. Just keep on going. No pause between inhalation and exhalation. Ten more. Fully in, let it go. Five more. Let's give it all we got. Last one. Fully in and let go. All right. 30 seconds breath hold from now on. Be in this moment. Let the body do what the body is capable of doing. Be aware of your heartbeat. Slow it down and just be in this moment. Okay, recovery breath in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath in and hold for 15 seconds. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Round number 2. Breathe in.
I'm not stopping my
breathe out. Breathe in.
Okay.
Breathe out.
Let's try that again. Great. So welcome back. Hopefully you're still in the room. And if you're feeling a little bit dizzy, don't worry, that's natural. It's just oxygen touching all of the cells in your body and rejuvenating your immune system. So what a simple joy. The fact that we have breath every day and we can enhance our ability to use it to improve our own internal resilience and strength. What a beautiful thing. And I love what Wim Hof just talked about, bringing a sense of awareness, which I think breathwork does. So for us as facilitators and individuals in a huge transition right now, I assert and offer the fact that mastering our breath has got to be a brilliant tool to start with. It's freely available. You can use it in any moment. And I've managed to find a lot of benefits over the years of using it. So in this enhanced, hopefully oxygenated space, I wanted to guide you through a short reflection. Now, I'd normally do a reflection like this in groups, but hopefully you've all got a pen and paper handy. And I'll just guide you through a couple of reflective questions to help set a safe space and set the tone. So the question that I'm asking you to reflect on for 2 minutes of quietness is, where is your creativity? Where is your creative genius? When did you last experience a moment that you can say, that moment was when I was accessing my own creative genius? However big or small, I'm going to play you a soft piece of music. If it's too loud for you, feel free to turn it down. And after 2 minutes, I'll bring us back and I'll invite you to feel free to shout, celebrate, and own this moment of creativity by sharing it on the chat box. So the question is, share one creative moment that you can really celebrate your own creative genius. I'll play you a little bit of music starting now. Fantastic. So feel free, if you feel bold enough, to own and create this moment of creative genius and throw some of the ideas and moments up on the chat box. Remember, there's no wrong or right answer. And particularly in any creative processes, all of us, I'm sure, know the ability to divert judgment starts with the self. So I think I'd like to start, take us to the next point and start talking a little bit about safe space and how, as creative facilitators and anybody guarding and supporting any process, one of the main roles that we have is to create spaces that nurture and generate a sense of creativity and most of all possibility. So allow me to move to my next thinking, too many slides up here, and talk about this idea of safe space. So it's easy to conceptualize how to do it in a room. And of course, there's many guidelines that us as facilitators create or offer or ask of our participants to ensure that we've got the right kind of environment. as we transition, as we're catapulted into the new virtual working spaces, I think that our role as creators and trainers and facilitators is ever more so important to stand for awareness of how we collectively build these spaces. And essentially, I think we're all called to look at this in a new perspective from a virtual understanding. Of course, if you Google how to run a virtual meeting, you can look at many articles that have been written that give us the guidance around how to be technically respectful of each other. But I think there's a huge role in us also understanding what goes above and beyond the normal switch your phone off and give us your attention and let's have one meeting. Those things are the given. So how do we build on that to continue to nurture possibility in the teams that we're working with? One short offer that I've found to be very, very proficient and effective over the years is the idea of a simple check-in with any team, whether it be virtual or real-time, but especially in the virtual world. Can we give ourselves that moment to truly connect before we go screen-facing and here's the plan? Can we create an opportunity for us to deepen the level of humanity and connection between ourselves? Well, of course we can. And here's a couple of simple ideas. I got these through one of my creativity mentors, Lynette McCormack, and she taught me years ago a simple key phrase, which is, right now, I am aware of ... Put that in your journal and reflect on it every day, because asking yourself, what am I aware of right now? And then in small meetings, having a minute or two to share it with another, what does it do? It enables me to feel heard. It enables me to clarify where I am. But most importantly, it enables somebody else to empathize with where I am. And as we share a short check-in in our groups, the active practice of continuously doing this brings a level of deep trust into our collaborative environments, which I think is ever more so important in the virtual space. If you have any questions around check-in processes, feel free and I'll try and answer them a little bit later. But this is something that I think is really key. There's a short quote by a woman called Janine Turner. It says, multitasking is difficult, but multi-communicating is even harder. So I've certainly felt the pinch. I'm struggling now with a few screens in front of me and wanting to be on the chat with Puleng and say, is it working? But I want my presence to be my greatest present that I can give you. So let's be really hyper aware of how we nurture creativity in the virtual space. I'd like to now see if we can invite you to nurture a bit of your own creative energy. And I've created a new word especially for this activity. We've probably heard the word chi. Chi from the Tai Chi, therefore being the practice of managing energy, universal energy. Well, how about cultivating our chi-ativity, like creativity, but our creative energy? And I think that we can do that not just through the practicing of our breath to bring awareness, the practices of generative questions and check-ins, but also the self-management of the force that sits inside our body. So I'm going to invite any of my creativity colleagues to also share their screens, any of the panelists, so that the rest of the audience can see that we're all going to participate together as I take us through 5 short Qigong exercises, which are a lot of fun. You just need a little bit of space. So let me step back onto my own little floor, and panelists, if at least one of you could join me, I'd be really grateful. So if you can step back, I'm just going to adjust my screen so you can see my feet a little bit. If you can step back into a place where you've got enough room to swing your arms. There you go, I can see myself. Thank you, Fred. You've got enough room to swing your arms like this. We're going to start by putting our feet facing forward together, dipping our hips slightly, so you can just dip down, and then relax your shoulders. And from here, I'm going to invite you to spin from the base of your spine, so your arms to start to swing around. And as we swing, we allow the arms to gently tap our kidneys, although there shouldn't be too many toxins because we've got our alcohol ban. And you're also using a moment to bring in your awareness of your environment, looking further and further all the way around. As we do this, we're invited to deepen our breath. In, out, in, out. And at whatever speed, slow or fast, you are releasing energy and you are waking up your inside. Slowly, 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 I invite you to come to a close. Slowly, slowly, until you've got your last final micro movement. Fantastic, well done. The next one is going to look like this. I'm going to raise my hands up with my breath in, and I'm going to release with an exhalation. The job here is to exhale all of the air on the down drop of the arms and fully breathe in and stretch to the top. Please excuse my belly button, but I'm going to try and tuck my t-shirt in. Okay, here we go. So we breathe in 5 times and release. We breathe in, we release. We breathe in, we release. 2 more times, and in, and release. And the last time, and out. Fantastic, great job. The next one is about drawing up positive energy from the floor and letting go of anything that we can that's not serving us. So the first move looks like that. I'll demonstrate. You're going to put your hands in front of you like this. Nice and bouncy, soft bend in the knees. And from here, I'm going to swipe the curtain away, that doesn't serve me. I'm going to scoop up positive energy from the earth towards my heart. And then I'm going to let go. With a kind of forced breath, sharp exhalation that lets go and releases an energy that's not serving us. My invitation is it's not about big arms. We're not doing thriller right now. We can do that later. We're going to just be relaxed in the body. Minimal energy for maximum result. Breath out. Let's try. We'll do 3 that side, 3 this side. So relax. Hold your hands. Swipe the curtain. Breathe in. To your heart, breathe out. Turn your hand, swipe the curtain, breathe in, stroke it to your heart, and out. Turn the hand, swipe the curtain, breathe in and out. Swipe the curtain, and out. One more for luck, breathe in, and out. The last on the side, breathe in, and out. Fantastic. That's 3 moves. We've got 2 more to go. Hopefully you're still with me and your body's starting to feel tingly and we can really own the fact that we are the masters of our own ship and the energy is ours to control. So the next move is going to be the handling of the fruit. So I want you to take 2 hands like this as if you're carrying your favorite fruit. Don't drop the fruit, okay? This is talking about our past as we take it behind us. You're going to come into the center here, not dropping my fruit, and then I'm going to serve it to my future here. Bit difficult, bit tricky, give it a go. Remember, no one's watching. So we're going to move to a side. We're going to move to the center. We're going to swipe it around and serve our future of possibility. Now we go the other side. Back, under, right round, serving the future. And if you've got a flow, it can just allow yourself to move. It's a very beautiful movement. Over time, you'll get a bit smoother, but just feel free in your own movement. If this isn't working, just do your own version and feel the flow in your body, okay? So, that's the first one, we did this one, we did that one. I think that's great now. I think I've misplaced the 5th move in my mind, so take a seat and we'll carry on. Puleng, you look like you want more. Okay. So, the management of space, the management of personal energy, obviously key elements to enhancing flourishing futures. Why would I use the word flourishing? Well, I came across I'm sure many of us have seen the Ken Robinson talk on TED, and it might have been on his second or third talk, but he was talking about the fact, I think he quoted somebody that said, if you took all of the humans out off the planet, within no time at all, nature would be flourishing. In other words, we're kind of in the way a little bit right now of nature being its best. If you took all of the insects off the planet, there would be no life in the next few months, because that's where it all begins, from the smallest bits of life that feed the rest, right? So when we talk about flourishing, and you look out your window, I'm fortunate to live in Sea Point, so I get to see the sea. I know that there's teeming with life out there. We even see whales and dolphins now and then. So this idea that nature is full of flourishment makes me realize that as I'm a human being, I'm also part of nature. I want to feel connected to my environment. And if I am part of nature, how might I also flourish? And that open question has fed my work and pushed me towards what I do, where I do. So we've had a moment to cultivate our creativity, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit around some of the work that I think is happening, that I know is happening because I've done some of it, but some of the work that I think we all need to be champions for in the future. And we talk about creativity as if it's our favorite word. It's stuck in my mind. I must say it a million times a day. Another favorite word is community. Another favorite word is collaboration. Another favorite word is communication. Now, all of that is fantastic, but in the new virtual space, I believe that our sense of community is going to serve us ever more than we've ever dreamt. So I don't know, many of you probably know about the creativity formula, but for those that don't, allow me quickly to share a screen. How am I going to do this? Down here. Excuse me. A bit clunky. So this is a creativity formula by Professor Ruth Noller from the State University of New York at Buffalo State. And as a mathematician, she wanted to figure out how she could create a formula to express the studies that she was putting into applied creativity. Many of you probably seen this before, but I think it's a really great reminder, and I've got a new addition that I wanted to throw in. So if creativity is a function of small a, capital K, I, and E, we could ask ourselves, what do they stand for? We know it's about knowledge. We know it's about imagination. We know it's about evaluation, to really check that what we're trying to do in the world with creativity actually has value. But the key part there is the A for our attitude. So how do we ensure that our mind is the most open to what might be possible at this transitionary time? And I think the answer to a lot of that is linked towards our ability to use what I call a language of possibility. Excuse me. And in the language of possibility, I think that it's about wanting to ensure we've got the most generative language. I'll figure it out just now. The most generative language in our communities. What do I mean by that? How many times have you found yourself sharing an idea and immediately somebody's crashing down on it and they haven't even heard what's being said? So this simple ability to bring the yes and, or tell me more, or how might we, or wouldn't it be great? These are some of the lead statements that the CPS methodologies really made famous around the world. And I think it can really change the way we think in our businesses. I'm amazed at how many people are not using mindful language when they are facilitating and training. How often can we lift somebody up with a certain phrase or drop them down? It makes me think about when I was at school and I was told I'll never be a dancer. I wasn't a dancer. And how many people were told they wouldn't be a ballerina or a musician. So that inner language of what we're saying to ourselves can be so easily reinforced by others. So what I've learned from the creative process is it is a language of possibility, and it's our role to ask the right generative questions that can nurture future possibilities in other people. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to do this at scale, talking about community, and wanting to see if I could encourage us to dance. We haven't had lunch, so I'm sure people are feeling ready to get a little bit energized. So I wanted to talk about a project that we've been involved with, which I think has been very successful because of all of the C's, the community, the collaboration, the creativity, but more so it's about universal global health. The project's called Dance for Life, and in 2002 I found myself on Robben Island doing a drumming HIV workshop for World AIDS Day. That project was spotted by a Dutch guy who had a dream to use dance as a tool to mobilize the world towards pushing back the spread of AIDS and HIV. So very apt to share this short story of the success that's inside that, and then give you a few of the tools and the rhythms that we even used to mobilize over 2.5 million young people over 15 years. What I love about it is that I'm still using the dance and the methods in all of my corporate work because it's funky, it's fun, it's engaging, it's involving, and it's sticky to the point that it still sticks in people's heads years later. They can come up to me and say, oh, I remember that rhythm and that song, because it's sticky. So let me share with you a short little clip, but before I do that, I wanted to, let me show you the clip first, and then I want to pick up on something that every speaker today has been speaking about, which is the extra element in the creativity formula that I just shared with you. So if I go here, here.
Mark, the sound is very weak. Yeah, increase the volume.
Okay.
And then when you share screen, there's a checkbox that says share sound. Just check that. So
Puleng, thank you for trying to help me out with my tech. I think that the moment might have been gone. Did anybody get to see the video, or are you suggesting I play it again?
We got to see the video, we just didn't hear the sound.
Oh, really? So no sound at all?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. That's why I said, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can see visually that it's about connection, it's about different cultures and peoples around the world being unified with something inside them, which is rhythm. And so the campaign, as I mentioned, reached over 2.5 million young people over 15 years. And now we have a new vision to reach 5 million young people by 2030, empowering them with the use of dance and creativity, not just in expression, but in their mind, for them to be able to see the future that they want to see and to co-create it. And so I'm aware that part of creativity is, creativity is acknowledged when it's celebrated, right? So I want to use and invite you all to jump onto the dance floor as I teach you a couple of short body percussion moves that have an important message, which I think is really apt for us now as we move into our future. So again, to any of my dear panelists who want to flash a screen and show me that we're dancing together, it's not fun dancing on your own, right? So again, back onto our floor space, I'm going to share with you a simple piece of body percussion that's got 4 simple lines. And I'm inviting our audience at home to be loud and proud, to let your voice be heard and not worry if you are dealing with anybody that, not worry if you're scared that nobody can hear what you're saying, okay? So, first move is, we're gonna stamp our hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, clap. We're going to do this 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, clap. And this time I want you to shout out, be the change. Be the change, because we are wanting to be the change we want to see. So be the change. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Be the change. And it is about us being the change we want to see. So after we've shouted, be the change, we're going to slap our thighs. Be the change you want to.
Sorry, Mark.
Yes.
Remove the share so that we have you on a full screen and we can be the change.
Thank you. Thank you, colleague.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect.
I'm definitely not a skill sharing expert. I'm trying to use my laptop.
You are brilliant, Mark. You're brilliant. Just keep on.
All right. Go. So we've got the first line which says, be the change. What I'm teaching you is to say, be the change we want to see. Because that's why we're gathering today, to arm ourselves to move forward in a space of possibility. So we're shouting, be the change you want to see. Unleash creativity. This is what it looks like. First, we're going to stamp. Be the change you want to see. Everybody, you want to see. 3, 4, you want to see. 3, 4, you want to see. That's the second line. Now we're going to put the first line and the second line together. It sounds like this. I'll show you. Be the change you want to see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be the change you want to see. Now, my neighbours upstairs are starting to hear me, and I want your neighbours to hear you too. Let's be a bit louder, wake our bodies up. 3, 4. Be the change you want to see. That's the first half. The second half, you need to tap your heart, make sure it's beating, and say, unleash from your heart, right? Unleash, everybody. Unleash. I'm trusting you're all with me. Unleash. The second half says, unleash creativity. Ooh, bit tricky. I'll do it again for you. Unleash creativity. 3, 4. Unleash creativity. Now, I have no idea, you're probably all looking very confused. That's perfect. It would be the same if we were in a real room. Let's try and put it all together one time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just testing, rewind from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be the change you want to see. Take responsibility. Yay! Give yourselves a round of applause. Feel free to come back to your seats. So, with the awareness of time, I want to make sure that we've got a moment to have an open discussion. If there's anybody that might have questions that they'd like to share, I'm very happy in an interactive space, as you can probably tell. But I thought it might be interesting to hear some voices around how you see the possibility of flourishment in your life or in your work. What kind of possibilities and intentions are we setting for ourselves now? I feel enthused and so supported to be in the creativity community because I believe I'm rubbing shoulders with people that are filled with possibility. So for the audience that might be joining, where's your space of flourishment? What possibilities are you seeing for yourself? And in what ways might you use the language of possibility to give yourselves the best opportunity of thriving and surviving at this time? I really believe it's about the language we use internally first, So as a gentle reminder, the wouldn't it be great if, as a statement, the how might we's, these lead us into a space of generativity. And I think that's so important at this time. Great, I'm just pausing to take a deep breath. And I'm wondering if there's anybody from the panelists, Puleng, Fred, if you might be able to help channel any of the questions my direction, or Fred?
So far you have...
Can I ask?
Yes, Fred, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just asking people to post Q&As in the Q&A section, which is right next to the chat button. I see there is one question, Mark. If you can, I'll read it for you. Question for Mark. Another C. So this is from the equation. Another C thought from his excellent presentation, Mark. I think you enjoy curiosity. Do you agree with Ken Robinson, who says curiosity is the engine of achievement? And then does it equate to creativity is the engine of growth, and perhaps curiosity the fuel?
That's lovely. Thank you for that. It's I don't know if it's a question or a perspective that you've shared there, Roy. I mean, I think that curiosity is obviously a very key element. And again, to tap the idea of curiosity in your language is where the skill and the art of open questions and generative conversation really comes into play. The last part you said, does it equate to creativity is the engine of growth? Yeah. And perhaps curiosity is, I love that. Yeah, I could say yes and to what you shared, Roy. Any other questions?
Can I also comment on Roy's question around, not question, but I do think it's also a comment around curiosity and creativity. What you're going to find is something quite interesting around creativity. It starts from a place of curiosity. So creativity, even the entire process, will start you from a place of framing problems or situations as questions. Why do we use the language of a how might we, how to? It's because we want to create curiosity in people to want to answer questions. Yeah, to want to ask more relevant questions, more quality questions. So there's such a direct relationship. And you know, we have this creativity graph that shows when we grow up how creativity drops from 98% when we're 5 years old to 2% when we are 40. The next graph that drops is the graph of curiosity. When we are younger, we ask more questions than when we grow up, we stop asking questions. So our level of curiosity also drops at the same rate as creativity. That means there's a very tight relationship between curiosity and creativity, and it's well noted. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Puleng. I see Nina. Hi, Nina. Thanks for joining today. Your question says, right now I'm aware of, please outline how the answer could be formed. You mentioned it creates trust. Please, can you elaborate? Gladly. So I think the lead statement right now I'm aware of, I actually just love to bring the practice of regularly asking that, because that's where the key to building trust lies. It's not like a one-hit wonder. You need to bring it into your culture with your teams. So what I've witnessed, having used this successfully with major reward in the teams I've worked with, is that if we simply offer the lead phrase, then it's up to the participant to finish how they answer it. So the encouragement from a facilitator would be, please finish the statement right now I'm aware of in whatever way you choose. Remember, your awareness is not better or worse than anybody else's. And in this safe space, we're encouraging your voice in for you to share whatever's on your mind right now. I often also follow on from the right now I'm aware as a quick check-in question to share the question around what's a gratitude that you could share today. Because I believe that building the attitude for gratitude is certainly a key to flourishment. And then after a gratitude, you might just want to ask, what's the intention, which brings focus to what we're here to do right now. And again, that's deepening the presence in the team and towards your objectives. I hope that helps answer your question, Nina.
I just love that, Mark, and I've had the privilege of learning this from Mark on many occasions. And that phrase, that sentence stem, the right now I'm aware of, just makes you very present, and it makes you very aware, and it's intentional. Because as Mark said earlier in his talk, we miss that in today's world. We just want things to happen. We just want things to finish, instead of sometimes just stopping and being aware and being present and being in connection, not only with the people around us, but also in connection with ourselves.
For sure. Yeah, thank you, Fred. I see on the chat group on the side, people were wondering if there's more links to the Dance for Life little clip. I tried to show you just a little minute of music, which was actually used as there was an award-winning advert by Saatchi & Saatchi for the Dance for Life campaign. And it really just spoke about diversity. So just going quickly back to the creativity formula from Ruth Noller, I think that there's a missing letter, or I'd like to do the yes and on the formula. And I feel that in terms of creativity and innovation, many of us are realizing that COVID provides an incredible opportunity for us to increase the level of inclusion in our processes. I mean, look at this example today. We've got people from all over the world jumping in within 24 hours notice. Why? Because we've got accessibility into the space. That's different in the physical world. And in the physical world, that means that we are impacted often by having less diversity of thinking. So to concur with this, all of the speakers I think this morning have in some way or another referred to diversity being a real key element. So I feel like I want to go and put the diversity piece in a redrafted formula for maybe creativity and flourishing futures or flourishing communities.
Awesome, Mark. Have a look. There's more questions.
Okay, great. Getting there. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Right. Hey, Dabs, my brother in Nigeria. Great to see and hear you, brother. Hi, Mark. Good to see you again. How do you get play that breeds productivity? I think you're saying in an uptight management team. Had any experiences with this? That's a really great question, and I feel really happy to answer that question. How do you get play that breeds productivity? Well, I think the first thing, it goes back to, are you able to create a safe space for people to want to play or to feel free or to be enticed into that space? And often I get brought into large events and conferences because I use music and creativity. Therefore, we bring tons of energy into the space. And sometimes clients will say, you do know it's a lawyers conference, right? These are all introverts. And are you sure they're going to kind of be open to your facilitation? And I've learned over the years that even the most introverted person or the most upset person in a different world that doesn't really want to engage, they all have an inner child inside of them. So we as practitioners have a role to reach that inner child. And for my approach to that, that means showing my inner child. I find that when I bring my sense of playfulness into a space, it gives others the license to do that. I hope that helps. Mickey San, music is critical and unique medium as it is highly transferable. Yes, I agree. Very much the universal language. Are there other obvious mediums we are overlooking in low contact society, particularly for communities excluded from the digital tiers? I think that that's a really fantastic question. I think there's different ways I could see what you're asking, the real world and the virtual world. The question, are there other obvious mediums? Well, let's clarify what you mean by that. If we're using music as a universal language, the question might be, where are other forms of universal language, for want of a better word? And I think then I tap into this, thinking about that question through my senses. What am I hearing? What am I tasting? What am I feeling? What am I smelling? What am I able to paint or draw? So anything that brings a space of sensory exploration or expression can then be expanded to be more inclusive. And of course, then in the virtual space or in the real world space, we have to figure out how best to create accessibility. And that's where I get tripped up on the question around those that don't have access. I think those that don't have access have the world of creative expression to bring into spaces, but for the virtual, we've got a challenge around how we connect more than just being in a room talking and looking at each other. I hope that helped. Colvin, my friend, thanks for joining. You say, where do you get your energy and rhythm from? Colvin will know, as a fellow community worker, that we get our energy from the people that we work with. That's why I'm finding it incredibly challenging on this session, because I can't see anybody, and I'm used to feeding off the energy in the group and with the smiles. That's a great question, Colvin. I think also when I don't have my energy, like I'm not feeling top, then I look at how my breath can enhance the state of cultivation and creativity inside. And that's why I think whether it's Wim Hof technique or yoga or meditation or the art of breathing, there's countless free tutorials on how best to enhance the power of your breath to cultivate a sense of flourishment. So my colleague Taboko, thank you for joining. Taboko is asking, Mark, my background is in academia. I found it difficult to answer your question earlier, to think of a moment when I was creative. So my question is, what is creativity? And I think that's brilliant. Taboko, I'm not sure if you were with us at the beginning of the session, but I think for those people that don't feel that they are expressing themselves creatively, perhaps they're not a painter, a drawer, or they don't fancy working in food or flavor, then the encouragement to an audience of people such as yourself would be to find that moment where you can own a level of creativity. And if that's an open enough question, and if you give your time the chance to reflect and journal on that, I promise you, you're going to find moments where you can say, actually, that was quite creative. Whether it be about you as a family member, as a sister, as a mother, or as an individual that just figured out how to do something better. That's where the value of creativity lies. So what we try and do in our work is demystify that creativity is for the creatives. It's a God-given gift and belongs with us all. So I'm aware of time. I see there's a question from a guy called David. Thanks, David, for joining us today. David says, who inspires me? Great question. I think that, good question. I think inspiration lies in relationship. And if we can find those magic moments in relationships in our life, that's where we can draw inspiration. I don't look and put people on pedestals, although I do watch a lot of musicians that do inspire me because of their artistry. But I think in terms of this kind of work, it's really in communication and authentic conversation that we can find inspiration in any moment. Nisha Naidu asks, how do we expose and assist our children to be more creative in everything they do? I'll take this as the last question. I've lost that question, Fred. That just disappeared. So let me answer.
Sorry, yes, Mark, yeah, I mean, you read the question. He's basically asking about how do we inspire our kids to be more creative?
Sorry, I was already going on to the next question. So how do we inspire our kids to be more creative? Again, I think it's in the language we use with our children. Are you asking them open-ended questions enough so that they feel there is a sense of possibility for them? In other words, not the yes or no, but yeah, possibly, or in what ways could we explore that further? Or what do you mean by that? Or could you express that, what you're trying to tell me, in a different way? I'm not a parent, so I'm not the best person but I do a lot of youth work. And when I do my youth work, I recognize that to tap into the heart of a child, you have to turn them on. You have to get them to a point of self-inspiration. And so the music and the arts are great because they take young people out of their brains and into full body sensory experience. And I think it's the full body, the holistic approach to inspiring and helping educate our young people. That's what we need to focus on, especially in the days and times.
Mark, I think that's a super answer for someone without kids.
Thank you. I've got one last question. I'm going to try and squeeze it in. It's from my friend Bastian. Bastian, thanks for joining us. Bastian's in Madrid. He's an amazing event producer. And his question is, how do you see the impact of being physically disconnected from one another with the fact that we as human beings are social beings and therefore need real interactions to connect and create together? Brilliant question. I think what we all need to